All right. Sorry, ready to go? Are we live? Okay, thank you everyone. Okay. So, good afternoon. My apologies to those waiting online, that we're just coming on now. Meeting was meant to start at 2. It's now 3 minutes past 2. As the Mayor of the Combined Authority of Cambridge and Peterborough, and as Chair of the Investment, I would like to welcome those members of the public and press who are joining us today for the meeting. There are no fire drills scheduled for today, so if the alarm sounds, I will adjourn the meeting, follow the Democratic Services Officer who can lead us to the assembly point. As a reminder to those present that the public session of this meeting will be live streamed, and indeed is being live streamed, and a recording will be placed on the Combined Authority's website. Can I ask everyone present to turn their mobile phones to silent or vibrate whilst the meeting is taking place? Okay, announcements. Well, I will maybe refer back to this at the end of the meeting, but I just want to say thank you all for joining us today. I note that Councillor Simon Smith is not here today. The investment committee is something that's actually been developed over the course of my time and tenure as the Mayor, and it's something I am particularly proud of, that as the Combined Authority, with the help of our senior officers, we've now been able to get a more robust service as to how we develop policy and make sure it is well, in keeping with good governance as well as good value for money. Unfortunately, however, it is my last meeting as Chair, so I want you to all to behave and be nice to me. I will now ask for apologies for absence.
Thank you, Mayor. We've received apologies from Nitin Patel, the Business Board representative, and also from Councillor Nessinger. I think Simon, Councillor Smith is expected, but maybe he'll be here shortly.
Sorry, just a thing. Do they send deputies? So Lucy is the county council rep, so
was unable to come either as well.
But well, obviously we do have, from the business board, we do have Al, and as you say, we are expecting Councillor Simon Smith to arrive, but we are caught. Thank you again for those who are here already. Moving on, item 2. Does any member wish? Thank you, by the way. Does any member wish to declare a disclosable pecuniary interest or non-statutory disclosable interest in any items being considered today? Oh, you're in perfect timing, Councillor Smith. Do you want to come and join us? We're just pondering if we've got to do any disclosures of pecuniary interest. And if you just come to your resting place here on the left, always good to see you on the left. Anyway, as always, declarations of interest can be made at any point during the meeting. Thank you. Item 3 is the minutes and action log. Is the committee happy to approve the minutes from the 13th of January 2025 as an accurate record and to note the action log? Okay, well, I see nods of approval rather than any objection, so we will take the minutes as approved and the action log as noted, and I will sign that in the next few seconds. And then moving swiftly on to number 4, which is the next agenda item, and it's the Chief Executive Business Case Decisions, alongside Janice Gotts as our Executive Director for Resources, who will introduce the item. I will.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Yeah, the press and hope. Thank you, Chair. So we've got 6 items here that are Chief Executive approvals to notify the committee of. The first is Littleport Business and Community Centre, which came to Investment Committee as a concept paper on the 16th of December. That's for £927,000 worth of capital there. The second, the Impact Growth Programme. This is a full business case for that programme of 978,000, and that supports 4 main areas of local engagement, a social enterprise portal to be set up for enterprises to work together and come together and to support a universal standard offer, training, coaching and mentoring, as well as sector and community building for that. The third is Cuckoo's Hollow, full business case, £623,000 there. That's capital funding again, and it's part of a much larger project of 1.4 million in the area, and that is to support active travel and replacing an active travel bridge at the site. Obviously not only supporting health and well-being and access to the amenities, but it also improves access between the primary school and Warrington Centre. Following on from that, we've got School Street and e-cargo bike expansion, again, part of the active travel. So we've got School Street's camera enforcement in Peterborough, and for the Try Before You Buy e-cargo scheme, so that's extending the scheme in Cambridgeshire, but also creating a new one in Peterborough. Following on from that, we've got the Vision Zero Road Safety Programme, which is a full business case and will cover a period of 1 to 3 years and has a number of schemes alongside the budget allocation as set out in the paper. And then we move on to the Market Towns master plans. So the number of change requests there. We've got Wisbech Park, change requests to utilise 25,000 differently, which had been allocated for the Shopwatch radio scheme, which is no longer able to proceed. And then that is being reallocated to install permanent outdoor electricity to support community events and festivals and other outdoor activities in Wisbech Park. Ramsey Public Realm, and that's reprofiling of that scheme from 24-25 to 25-26. Similar for the Soham to Wickham Fence Cycleway, reprofiling that from 24-25 to 25-26. And for Whittlesea community projects, there's an underspend of 45,000 there against the original plan, and that is being used for 3 items are outlined in the paper: for new pool covers at the facility, new heat exchange unit, and £12,000 to be provided to the Whittlesea Southern Relief Road project, following a recent identification of additional works to cover this work. And there is also a further £20,000 to be reallocated to improve energy efficiency at the Manor Leisure Centre, and that was an underspend against the Whittlesea Tennis Courts refurbishment. So those are the decisions made by the Chief Exec during since the last meeting we've had. Thank you.
So I think it's fair to say there's a lot of stuff being paid for there by the Combined Authority, obviously all within our set out policies and working with our officers. Does anybody have any questions or comments on these proposals but reports? Okay, sorry, Mr. Williams. John.
Yeah, thanks. So
You're on before, you're back on, you're on.
okay. It's just to ask, I know from the under active travel, the footway widening for Great Wilburn Primary School says that the aim is to see a 4% increase of people walking, wheeling or cycling along this route. Now, footfall, I know this very well, is virtually non-existent. So 4% of zero is pretty much zero. I just want to ask, how low does it have? Because 4% in this case is actually, to my mind, not worth doing. But you know, I'd like to know: is there a limit? Is there a lower level at which we say no? You know, it's got to achieve this before we agree to it happening? Because, as I say, in this particular case, the footfall in the village at this particular point is very small.
Is this the part of the Vision Zero Road Safety Programme? So, which point are you? The Great Wilburn. Is it Vision Zero?
I mean, it is actually. This arises from a visit by the active travel team, to the parish council, and it actually is more of a road safety issue. The footpath is very narrow at that point, and we have HGVs going past, and there is a concern of people's safety. But as an active travel project, I'm struggle to understand why it was agreed. But perhaps Tim can explain what the lowest
Oh, sorry.
achievement is
Help
for
needed.
this.
It is, we are talking about the Great Wilbraham Junction enhancement and Vision Zero. Right, okay, sorry, my missed stuff.
Tim Bellamy, the active travel, assistant transport director for transport. So just on the one that's listed within the chief exec's report, that is a road safety junction improvement. That's around actually looking at the accident and looking at how to improve the accident in that area. That's what the discussion is on this piece. There's also another item later on, and the active travel 5 funding about how we to improve active travel across the board in that area. So there's 2 parts to this. One is part of a bigger package. So you've got the bit about the road safety improvement. So actually looking at how to improve the road safety and the widening and actually have a safety aspect, but also it does link to the paper on the active travel 5, which is in fact going also to committee today around how we improve active travel in that area. There's 2 parts of it.
Two separate sections. Yeah, I think you've drawn attention to it.
It doesn't really answer my question. Is there a limit? Is there a baseline in which you say actually this is generating too little additional benefit to be worthwhile? I haven't seen that anywhere in these papers.
I would suggest that actually there's a limit that we need to work. There's 2 parts to that. One, we need to work back to Travel England around what the base is, but also because of the importance around the road safety element, I think we need to understand and come back to the committee with reports around what the footfall is now, as you say, Councillor Williams, and actually how do we then improve going forward. And actually, I think there's 2 parts. And actually, if we get the safety element right, even if it's a perception of safety, that will have impact on footfall as well. But I think there's not an arbitrary figure, and it's a case by case basis, but actually I think there is a need to look at what the figures are now, what the impact of the 2 lots of schemes are, and then we can come back to the committee in due course with that report.
So much a question, just a comment really. On the Littleport Business and Community Centre, because I know back in December there were quite a few questions from members of this committee about the business case, and I did go back and speak to officers at East Cambs, and I know they worked with CPCA officers as well, so I'd like to thank those officers. It is a good scheme, and I think getting that work done has meant it's obviously been a scheme that's finally been acceptable. The work's been done to get the business case such that it's been approved, so I'd like to thank CPCA officers for working with East Cambs on that. Thank you.
Yeah, just to note much more, basically within the decisions signed off as part of the change request to the Market Towns work, I do feel worth just flagging that the changes to Ramsey within Huntingdonshire District Council obviously apply to us, but within my cabinet portfolio as well. We're not being asked to make a decision here. I don't think that's remotely an issue looking at the monitoring officer, but wish to put that clear.
Yeah. Clarification.
Oh, sorry. Yes, obviously the chief executive has already made the decision.
Well, it seems that most of you seem to be. But I'm going to make one personal comment because I feel it's something I just want to acknowledge the work of the Vision Zero group in terms of the road safety program. I appreciate you've got some questions and that's a bigger picture, but for me to see in what now turns out to be my last investment committee meeting, the fact that we are prioritising the importance of the Vision Zero ambition, i.e. 0 road deaths in Cambridge and Peterborough, and we are highlighting the road safety programme as an important part of the work we do within our transport team. I'm sure all of us were impressed by the Green Cross code band when we were children, and I am channeling my inner Darth Vader to say how pleased I am that we have moved on so that this sort of is seen as an important part of the work that we will do going forward. Long may it continue, and I am hopefully will be going out to the the B660 on my motorbike to demonstrate hopefully how it needs to be improved and hopefully do it safely. So thank you to the Vision Zero team, who are a group of different organisations from fire and rescue, police and crime, the whole group of kind of third sector, and also working with county council, city council colleagues at Peterborough, to have kind of come together and rescued what was already a very good piece of work, but needed a little bit of impetus to get it back on track. And I'm just absolutely delighted to see that there. So thank you for allowing me the indulgence of highlighting the importance of the work. Thank you also to the Chief Executive for signing it all off. With that, I will say that we were asked to note the report, which we have done. No vote is required. We're now going to move on to item 5. So this is an outline business cases for approval by the committee. Domenico Cirillo, the PMO programme lead, to introduce this report. And the following officers are here in abundance to support the OBCs from their areas. That will include Yo Higdon from Active Travel, Jim and Judith from the Climate Change Opportunity Fund, and I believe, Laura, you're here as well. I might bring you in if there's any additional support required. Active Travel Capital Programme, Anna Graham and Yo Higdon. The Youth Guarantee Trailblazer, that's Andrea. And Connect to Work, that's Andrea as well. And then the UK SPF. So you're going to need to concentrate, everybody, because there's a lot of stuff to talk about here. But Domenico, you are the ring master. So do you want to start, please?
Thank you, Chair. So these items have all been before the investment panel in February. All issues, comments and actions have been signed off by PMO and the respective EDs. The first item is Active Travel Fund 5 programme. This is a full business case committee and it's for 1.6 billion in overall value. So the investment committee will be making a decision today if approved. I will now pass over to Yo to introduce the item and to take any questions from the committee members.
I can hear you, but can you get a bit closer to your microphone? Can we do a bit more on the volume? Is there anything? We're just working on the volume. Yo, if you want to keep going, Yo. Oh, we're struggling a little bit. I'm getting sort of a challenge. Can you just hold for a moment? Sorry? We've got our volume control as high as we possibly can, but we are struggling with maybe your equipment at your end. Can you go again, Yo? It just seems that you're very far away in a big room and we're trying to. And we're now, sorry, Yo, for a moment. We're on full volume here and we really are struggling to hear you. Tim, could you? Sorry, Yo, my apologies. I appreciate you're here, but we're just going to have to hand over to Tim to maybe go through this part anyway. Okay.
So I assume that the members have read most of the information, but just to confirm, so you've got the construction of Alconbury Wheel Phase 1, the design and construction of the Wilbraham footway widening. This will go to the actual design review panel to make sure that it is in line with our policies and also with the community needs. Maintenance and solar studs, barrow removal in Cambridgeshire as well, along with the development of the A505 Granter Park detailed design that comes from a study that was done, commissioned by the county council. Detailed design on Thorpe Road and also on a study to Ely route as well on that design on that. So there is a significant amount of work being progressed with the 1.6 million, but also as Yo did say, but just to reiterate, this was money that we got direct from Act Travel England, and also the criteria that was set by Act Travel England around what we could use that money for, and therefore these were the schemes that were brought forward in collaboration and partnership with each of our constituent councils and also the highways authorities as well.
Okay. So I think what we'll do them one at a time. Can I just get this is just to hopefully blow the trumpet of the combined authority and our transport team, Yo and Anna. Of the awards that were made, as I understand it, this is the most per head of population for active travel was given to us at Combined Authority, which I'm led to believe is because they have recognised our engagement, our ambition, and it's something that they wanted to obviously reward us for. Is that right?
So that is the other funding that we've got. So there are various pots of funding that we've got back Travel England. That is for the subsequent financial year. But you are correct there around the funding that we have just received from Back Travel England, the criteria that we are working through. We reported that to TIC last week.
Yeah.
And that funding we did to get the high per head of population of any of the male combined authorities. And that does link back to our Active Travel England rating of 3 that we achieved last year.
Okay. Sorry, I've blown my trumpet a bit too much then. Al, did you want to come in?
Yes, happy to, Chair. And trumpet worth blowing because it's great to see there's lots of proactive efforts happening when it comes to active travel. I think that the only question I have, and I think it's good to see we've got such a breadth across our region of projects, was just to ask the question where the line in terms of active travel funding improvement sits between new projects and maintenance, and at what point does maintenance cease to be active travel and a different pot? Now, if the funding's there and it's accepted, I think absolutely fantastic, carry on as before. But I'm just interested in terms of maintenance of barriers, how that links in with, okay, potentially below that there's a bit more substance.
Sounds like a very officer type question. So over to you, Tim.
Yes, it's always interesting the split between maintenance, operation and renewals, and actually enhancement and how we split that. So basically, maintenance is a key, as we know, to active travel use. If you have lots of potholes, etc., then it will reduce the attractiveness of active travel. But ultimately, active travel in this occasion, we engage Active Travel England around can we use this funding to maintain, do some maintenance on this, and actually they are happy with the way forward we've proposed. This isn't as to say that this money could, in totality and going forward, should be used as highway maintenance, because ultimately there's a different pot of money from different areas to do that. But these are focused areas and focused things like the studs, etc., and some of those they are very focused and actually linked directly to active travel in those locations.
Any more questions about the decision making and some of these proposals for active travel, be they maintenance, request, development, or indeed construction? It looks like we've got a good nod. So apologies, Yo, you didn't get to perform, but it looks like you've put together a nice little package of works there. Thank you very much, you and Anna. Moving on, Domenico.
Thank you. Next item is a business case that comes before the investment committee for the under the climate programme budget. Now, this is to set up an opportunity fund to support partners in providing climate change activity interventions in the area. Portfolio 10 projects, and I'll hand over to Jim to take any questions and to talk through the project.
Right. You're not on, Jim. I don't think you're there. Just keep pressing for. Are you on now? You're on now.
Right. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to present the report. I'm joined in the room today virtually by Councillor Lara Davenport-Ray, who is a member of the executive, the Environmental and Sustainable Community Committee, and who developed the concept of the programme. And she's here to support us in any questions that might be asked. Similarly, I have Steve McAteer from Dayton Bell, the project managers for the project, who is also in the room to take any questions of detail. But let me turn around to what I'm asking you to approve. And by way of background, the Climate Change Opportunity Fund was launched in November 2024, following approval of the outline business case by the investment panel and the investment committee. The launch of the programme commenced targeted at local authorities, parish councils, not-for-profit sector, who were actively trying to seek support to develop projects which would contribute to the wider climate change objectives of the combined authority and of our partners. The launch process involved webinars and briefing sessions so that potential applicants were given full support to put their applications together and bring those forward, and were continuously encouraged to do so throughout the process. There were 2 stages to the process. We received 46 initial expressions of interest, and they converted into 29 applications. As the consultants, Dayton Bell, who were supporting us, were involved actively in supporting applicants with their applications, they brought on board independent consultants, EDAIL, to support in the assessment of the project. So the assessment of the projects was at arm's length, and solely on the basis of the project's fit with the strategic case that we set out, the contribution that the projects would make to our climate change objectives, the value for money and potential impact of the case, and the deliverability of the potential project as well. The scoring system was a very robust, and indeed, at the investment panel, it was considered that might be something we should look to as an example of good practice moving forward. The projects have been scored on the basis of the top 10 ranking projects being recommended to receive the money that is available in the funds. The amount we're asking for is 1.1 million. The fund was created as a £1 million fund, but as I'm sure members of the committee will appreciate, landing bang on a £1 million total when you were assessing 29 applications was always going to be difficult. And it's also been the request to increase the allocated amount to up to 1.1 million is also based on the fact that we have a short reserve list of potential projects that might come forward if for any reason the projects that we're recommending for approval fail to meet any conditions or conditionality moving forward. And again, that's on the basis that we might well be in a situation where a £100,000 project is potentially been replaced by a £75,000 project. So we needed that leeway in funding to do that. The 10 projects which are recommended for approval are set out in paragraph 2.5 of the paper, and more detail in each of these projects is given in the appendix, which I think is Appendix C, that accompanies the business case, and was circulated to members of the committee last week. I'm happy to take any questions on the project and the recommended outcomes, and I would recommend what we're proposing to you as the committee for approval.
I commend you on your the detail. It's quite short and succinct, but it kind of says what it is on the tin. It was a
opportunity fund for people who wanted to do something about the climate crisis, and it appears that we asked, and our communities answered with suggestions. But it's now down to if you ask the public, this is what they give you. Are we happy? Investment Committee, Al, you were the first to indicate.
Thank you, Chair. And you did start the meeting by saying to everyone to be nice, so I am intending to be nice. I want to say firstly that I actually thought the supporting paperwork on this one was really strong. So thank you to the team, particularly because historically, perhaps some of the challenges being around our scoring metrics and how we put weightings against different projects. So this is really clear, and I'm pretty keen to see how that 20+ point scoring method was utilised, because there's always ways we can improve the granularity. I suppose the only question from me, providing that feedback, other than, and no offence intended to any guests in the room, that multi-layered consultants sometimes rings an alarm bell with me, with costs for delivery of the project, which could have been used for the projects. But that aside, was there a flaw? In other words, you've highlighted the top 9 that met within the financial means and the funding. Was number 10 one that you would have supported? Were there more funds, or was number 10 one that didn't meet the floor metric that you wanted?
I think
Yes. So, yeah. Yeah. It's more about sometimes do we just keep agreeing projects until we've spent all the money, or is there a point where we say we haven't spent all the money, but that project just isn't strong enough?
May I answer the question, Chair? Are you able to hear me? Maybe if I get closer to my microphone.
Sorry about that. So, in terms of Al's questions and comments, it was a £1 million fund. We've gone through the scoring, the appraisal system, and then went down the rank of projects, basically until we hit £1 million or just over £1 million, as the case was. And I think we collectively took the view that that was a better way to do it, rather than go back to projects and look to reduce what they'd asked for on the basis of trying to get more projects approved. So so it's a clean cut of the top. It happens to be 10, but the top ranked projects reaching the £1 million limit.
Thank you. It's always that difficult one, somebody's got to make the decision, but we've got to do it in a way that is obviously completely transparent and not open to question about the so it goes back to your point, which I would agree, Al, and again, no offense to people sitting in the room, if this was something that was in-house and we could do, would we be able to make more savings? That would be nice, but at the same time, if our final delivery is good, and obviously we can't satisfy everyone, but maybe I know if Bridget was here, and I'm going to bring in Lara Davenport-Ray as the the co-chair of the Environment Sustainables Committee, is that if we can demonstrate that we're doing good here in many ways, then maybe as we move forward with our budgeting process, we will feel more obliged to do something similar again and put more, and other people who've applied might be more successful next time. Councillor Davenport-Ray, I appreciate your willingness to come and fly the flag for this fund. I'm sure it wasn't just you who was saying that we needed it, but I know that you've been very much behind it and supportive of the combined authority, and I want to say thank you for working so well across the board with across political boundaries as much as also with our officers. Do you want to make any comments here?
Yes, please. Thank you, Chair. Are you able to hear me?
And you're not on mute, are you? Because I don't think you are. And now we're going to have a problem. I think this is something we're going to. Sorry, Lara, you've made this wonderful. Unless you start and you're in the building, or you scream very loud from where you are, we're not going to hear you.
No, I'm at home.
No, you're smiling a lot, which I'll take as the positive. But right, this does make me wonder that we might have a problem here in Judith now.
And that might also be a problem with Andrea. I can see sort of nodding. Sorry, Laura, we're gonna take it your attendance here as yep, and a thumbs up. We'll take that. Judith, you put your hand up. Can we have a go at you? No. Okay. So, and I can see people like screaming in an empty room or in a space no one hears you scream at the moment. So, we're trying desperately at this end. We're going to move away. Might come back to you if something magical happens. I'm going to go back to the room, everyone. Okay, back to anybody in the Councillor Nawaz Haq.
Thank you. I commend the noble vision and the aspirations. My ambivalence is around the key objectives. You've numbered here 10 key objectives. They all sound very good, and indeed they are very good. My question is that how will these be measured, monitored, and by whom?
Each of the projects has set out their objectives according to the appraisal process that we gave them and put them through. And what we have done is tried to capture the collective contribution that these projects will make to our objectives, and that's described in the business case. Just for a minute, I'll bring those to you. So I think there's something like 10 indicators around carbon saving that are included in the gross contribution that these projects will make. We would, as part of the condition of grant to the applicant, we will ask the applicant to report regularly on how they are achieving the objectives that they said they would aim to achieve, and we will collect that through a monitoring and evaluation framework at the combined authority. And we'll hopefully capture lessons learned in that process that can then be fed into the development of other projects.
And thank you, Jim. If I were to then follow that up, we will have a little try, Tim. Maybe you can obviously get Lara, the officers, to speak if you're in the meeting. But to follow that up, to put this in context, something like this, although there's the individual projects that need to be absolutely appropriately monitored and in terms of what they are expected to deliver, and we want to see that. This is all that bigger picture here of what we do in terms of our independent climate commission was actually set up before I arrived. So, to the credit of the previous administration, they had an independent climate commission which reported. Obviously, there were some challenges in accepting, I think it was 57 different recommendations. But we are, it is what we're all signed up to at the combined authority, our constituent members, to take on the climate crisis, the climate challenge. And this is but a small start compared to the huge challenges we face. But I think, yes, there's individuals, and they would be absolutely, it's one of my biggest bugbears, is making sure that once we've invested in people and we're working with people, that we see, I don't know if you would say a return or we see that cooperation that continues to deliver, but we've got to see it in the context of something that we've signed up to in the bigger picture, our independent climate commission recommendations. And I'm going to go, there's lots of hands going up there. Can I just take an officer as part, then I'll take, do you want to come in there, Chris?
Just to follow up your point about monitoring and evaluation. Now, there's a refresh of the monitoring and evaluation framework being led by officers within the combined authority at the moment. But you'll know about the single assurance framework. This is why this committee was set up. And every business case that comes forward has to have a monitoring and evaluation with it. So all the things that we're talking about there, monitoring and evaluating the outputs to make sure that actually delivers what it says it's going to deliver. We make sure as part of the process now that has to be in place to allow us to bring it to you to discuss and approve or reject, this case may be.
Continue on this, Councillor Nawaz Haq.
Third time lucky. Thank you. This is more of the sort of thing that I was alluding to. I mean, this is public money, and it is £1 million, and we've got to be accountable for the taxpayers' money. And all it says is, I mean, as I said, these are very admirable objectives, the key outcomes, but it is all sort of very hazy. It is expected to capture, it is expected to cut, it is expected to reduce, and expected reduction. But I mean, do we have any way of measuring, having a baseline from where we are standing? Will we have those metrics, indices from where we start, and then going forward be able to have a visible sort of presentation as to how much has been achieved, and who will be monitoring this? What sort of criteria would we be using? Thank you, Chair.
Chris, I thought, do you want to come back on that? Any further clarification? I know you went to it before.
Well, with regards to the monitoring and evaluation framework, it's not run through my team, but I'm more than happy to talk to the performance and policy team. Maybe they could come along and talk in a bit more detail.
Yeah. Oh, see, it's your last meeting, Chair. I was just going to say thank you, although I wouldn't have normally. Thank you.
You wouldn't normally do it. I don't know what I know. Thank you. Okay, lovely. Councillor, no, you haven't spoken yet. Councillor Smith, Simon, do you want to come in now? And then we'll go to the youngster. Okay. All right. Do you want to go, Councillor Wakeford?
First time lucky. Okay, so there's a generic problem with these small scale projects, which is really relates to economies of scale. And small projects can actually be relatively expensive in terms of the overhead administration and the monitoring costs and so on. But just looking at this list, I think it's really important that these projects are taken down to community level. The reason for that is that if people go into a community centre, as one of these projects is, the sports centre, they see the technology, they see the works that have happened to reduce energy, reduce carbon emissions, and they can take that away with them. They can find out more about it. It may encourage them to do this in their own homes. So I think we mustn't overlook, and we factor in the second round benefits of having these projects demonstrated at the level of the community. And I think within this, there's when we go through this programme, we need to make sure that the schemes are balanced between these nature-based ones and these community-based ones, because I think the nature ones can score very, very heavily on reducing carbon emissions, and that could potentially crowd out the community ones. So I'd like to see a balance between the projects as this progresses. But it's what the Combined Authority is doing here, and this is relevant to all the things we're discussing today. Otherwise, wouldn't happen without this authority. Thank you.
So Wakeford.
Thank you. Lisa, this one works on the briefly on the discussion of metrics, I was simply going to flag that I think the outcomes are quite specific in how they're set out in the paperwork and elaborated in the report. And we've got monitoring through engagement with the applicants, if I've understood that correctly. So I don't have significant concerns there. Obviously, in principle, it's important we make sure that our money is being used for what we intend it to. But I don't see any question about that here. Just on point, just on a couple of other points, because I certainly agree with everything Councillor Smith has just said. If I understand correctly, the additional 100,000 referenced in 2.6 of the report to go beyond the million figure, that has already been identified as coming from existing budget. So there's no a request for us to approve additional overall spend before us today. So that reference to additional amounts isn't for us to overspend against anything. I'm seeing nods from officer colleagues on that, which is helpful. The magic of modern technology might not have helped us with the IT, but Councillor Davenport Way has been able to relay a couple of points that I'd be in a position to underline, unless we think we've solved. Unless we think we've solved the audio.
Wonders have happened. Do you want to have a go? Yeah, go on. Oh, we tried. You know. So we'll go back to the plan B. Okay, thank you again.
Thank you. So Laura can nod or shake her head enthusiastically if I'm mischaracterising it. I think one of the points that the Communities and Sustainability Committee, name of which I've just mangled, was keen to flag to us is the extent to which they feel that this funding project has enabled them to illustrate how we can work most effectively as a combined authority, as a pass-through funding organisation. So working with organisations that already exist in our communities that do good work, rather than us trying to sort of replicate project delivery. I suspect a lot of us would recognise that as an analysis. Generally, this adds strength to that argument. And I think there are also points around the operation of the single assurance framework in the role of the thematic committees and us as an investment committee that they've got feedback on in terms of that interplay. I mean, we've referenced that with respect to projects that I've been involved in discussions of at Transport Committee as well as Skills Committee as well. So I think there are some points that we can follow up offline to help us streamline that. I will, and sorry, on a point of specific picking up, I think something Councillor Smith said as well. The balance of nature-based projects versus retrofit was driven by the applications received rather than any overall sort of strategic judgment call. Hopefully that's helpful, Chair.
Thank you for relaying that input. There's a few questions. Judith, do you want to have a try again? No, oh, well, we can, but we can't, if you know what I mean. So, sorry. Okay, fine. Nick, Councillor Thorwald, in the room.
Thanks for that. I'm particularly interested in the mix in here. Some of the stuff about managing the outcomes interests me. But I'm actually sitting there thinking I can put these in numerous places and do this hundreds of times in different places. So I'm quite interested in the outcomes being a bit of a story, so that you can go out and talk to people about. But as well as the financials, but all these different elements, they sort of cover everything that I would probably want to do at a community level. So I'll be quite interested to see how they get on. Not just as statistic output, but a story.
Yes.
Like how did it go? What went wrong? What didn't go wrong? It's going to be quite useful. That's all. I can think of dozens and dozens of places I could take it if we outcome the results. Just a comment, really.
That's a nice comment. Over to you, Jim.
It is a point because I'm talking to Column's team about next steps in terms of promoting that kind of case study approach and going back to projects that see how things were going will be played into the process moving forward.
And an observation I would make, which is beginning to happen, and a credit to the comms team, particularly at the Combined Authority, is I think there are times, sometimes quite what the Combined Authority is doing with its partners isn't always recognised. So I don't think it's done in a sustainable way, but I do think plaques and the mayor of the future going along to, maybe at the Burwell Community Sports Centre when those solar panels are installed, going along as a kind of, this is what we're doing, celebrating with the community, their efforts and how the Combined Authority has been helping drive their ambitions. That needs to be recognised. And to be fair to the comms team, they are doing that a lot more with stuff that we've done in the past, but maybe we didn't really celebrate as much as what we could have done. So I think there's a fantastic spread here. It would be good if we continue to kind of get such a good spread across the whole of our area. And I guess some of that's about messaging and taking it back to our different councils, that to keep an eye out if this is indeed something we wish to replicate. Are there any final points to note on this one? Just to explain, we've obviously got quite a long meeting. We've got to get to F. We're about to go into C, to talk about the Active Travel Capital Programme. I'm going to bring you in, Tim, to do this. And then we have to do all the votes separately afterwards. Over to you, Tim. This is now to discuss the outline business case, the Active Travel Capital Programme into an FBC.
Thank you, Matt. We're seeking the approval of the outline business case, the allocation of 893,000 University Active Travel Capital Programme to FBC. This fund will be used to support the design and development activity, ensure a strong pipeline of active travel programme with enhanced connectivity into sustainable transport option across the region. The Active Travel Community Grant Fund criteria was recently considered at the Combined Authority Transport and Policy Committee, and there is funding within this allocation to allow to enable the progression of this. And we are looking for such time to be engaged in the assessment of the scheme going forward to give that level of expertise. And also, I think a part of that, we need to learn lessons from the Opportunity Fund and what we just heard. I think that will be key to be built into the programme. Additionally, funding is sought to complete the final design of Jersey to Oakington Active Travel Scheme in priority for Cambridgeshire. It is also looking at feasibility studies for active travel improvement in East Cambridgeshire, focusing on two critical routes, into Sarum and Burwell, and for them, and the wider connections. And then by preparing these further schemes, the outline business case aims to strengthen active travel, the network, providing safe, accessible and sustainable transport options, whilst ensuring we have a well-prepared pipeline of schemes for the future.
Thank you.
And just to add, Chair, they're asking for 894,000 up front as part of the design cost for the full.
That's the important, nice ideas, haven't got the money. Okay. Does anybody want to make any comments about some of these schemes? Again, it looks like quite a wide distribution, but or are they? Please still come in, Councillor Wakefield, Sam.
Well, yeah, just to reassure in terms of the provided in the paper, the Transport Infrastructure Committee is referenced. I think the development of the project in line with those is really welcome. Those into concerns, obviously, of that committee. I don't have anything further specific to add. I think it's really helpful supporting paperwork, but certainly, I think as the only member of TIC here today, I strongly endorse this. The only member by yourself, no, obviously.
We noted and can now move on again. We're now going to move on to the Now, Andrea, which might be a bit of a challenge if we're not getting. Andrea, do you want to have a go? A little bit better. Maybe you could have a, just go a bit, yeah. Well, we're going to be very quiet. You can, the tiny moment. Okay, just have a go, and I just say we have support in the room. You want to do it? Go on. We'll go in the room. We'll go in the room. 3 presses. Yeah, go on. So you that. You click on that one. There you go.
See if we can make this technology. Am I coming through okay? Okay, I won't say this apology, but this is a very slightly more prepared to taking over the slot. I'm talking to 2.11, which is the Youth Guarantee Trailblazer business case, which we're sharing with you today. One of the important things I'd like to point out from the outset, because this is coming to you slightly differently to the items that have been presented to you this morning. This is a question which will be independently funded by DfE and DEP. We are not seeking an investment from the CPCA or from any partners to deliver this program. We are so just a little bit of a clarity point. Paper. The Youth Guarantee Trailblazer is part of the government's white paper around Get Britain Working, for those that are familiar with it. It is part of the government's approach to tackling economic inactivity across the country. And as part of that, they are seeking to make an investment in local trailblazers to deliver certain parts of the developing policy area. Supporting youth and youth unemployment is a critical part of the paper. We have been selected as a Youth Guarantee Trailblazer area. We would like to have the support committee to receive and accept the that's being offered to us, which we are currently still in development with DWP and DfE around. Appreciate proposals that have been put to you this afternoon, I should say, and so slightly more detail within the business cases that have been shared. That is simply because we are continuing to develop, we are developing at pace because we want to be able to launch programs this spring and across the summer. We have a 12-month window of investment to deliver testimonial activities which are designed to enable the recorder system to deliver effectively for young people who risk of need or who have become need, 18 to 21 years old, intervention activities for 16 to 17 year olds in the preventative space as well. I'm just skimming through the detail to make sure that I don't miss anything that's particularly important with regards to this paper. I think that's probably the very brief is the summary. I'm happy to attempt questions. Tech is sounding very okay. Andrea, would you like to give it another go? We're hopeful we might have you back.
Is that better? Can you hear me now? I can't hear you very well now. The sound in the room has gone funny. It's not good.
Can you hear me now? Are we coming through the road?
You sound like you're dressed up as Daleks. That's what it sounds like.
I've been called worse, but we can hear you. So if you want to the that's already been presented, I mean, I'll tell you what. I mean, it's been covered. We have read the papers. I'm not going to take questions in the room, and maybe you can, if you hear this thing, you can come back, Alex. Okay. I'm from the council, Wakewood.
Thank you. I'm sure Councillor Nessinger would have flagged as chair of the schools committee were she here, and this went down extremely positively, I think, at the schools committee a fortnight ago, where we looked at it. There's enormous potential in here, as Alexis really ably set out there, and I'm certainly really excited about moving this forward and seeing what concepts we can prove in terms of the better coordination, integration of spend across the different sort of partner organisations involved in thinking about different aspects of the challenge that we're tackling here. So not a question, but I hope that's helpful, and I'm looking forward to making use of this funding without direct cost to our budgets, as has been said.
Excellent. Over to you, Councillor Smith.
Simon.
Yeah, I was very excited to read this, and then I found that it was only going to be addressing 18 to 21-year-olds and those at risk of 16 to 17-year-olds. I devised a youth life chances programme in a previous life to address and provide pathways for children who were NEET. And it was delivered by the Probation Service at the time. So I think this is too late. I think we need to integrate this with an earlier intervention program. We know we can predict which people are going to be in this program. Looked after children, post-looked after children, post-care. Those who are in alternative provision, those who are known to children's services and the criminal justice system and schools, those children with disabilities. These are all groups that are most severely disadvantaged in our society, and they are the people that are most likely to be supported by this programme. But if they're emerging at 16 years old and they've got literacy and numeracy problems, which I suspect many of them have, it's too late. You can't recover from that bad start in life, and your life chances are so limited and closed down at that point. So I think this is only going to be successful if it's complemented by these earlier intervention programmes. Thank you.
I don't know if you've heard anything of that, Andrea. Is he going to come back on that?
I did. I've dropped a note to Alexis, but can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's good.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you for your comment. I mean, I think it's also very much recognised that this policy area that's developing, is seen by some as somewhat in isolation, and there needs to be more recognition that a more holistic approach needs to be taken to tackling NEET. One thing that we're doing at the Combined Authority is we're trying to knit it together with a lot of the existing activities that we're already doing. So, for example, through our regional careers hub, we work with every school across the region at Key Stage 4, so that's in year 10 and 11, to look at all of the interventions that the schools have got in place to prevent young people from becoming NEET. So we work with them to complete what's called a Compass toolkit, where schools will look at how well they are doing against a set of called Gatsby benchmarks, which are the benchmarks which are cited by the Gatsby Foundation as being the key kind of influencing factors that can help prevent young people from becoming NEET. So that's one example of where we will be looking at joining this piece of policy work in with existing activities that we're already doing. And obviously the groups that you've mentioned are going to be priority groups for us in terms of supporting those young people. But this is about not just putting money at interventions. This is about looking at a systems change and a systems approach to tackling this challenge, and by working very closely with youth justice services, working with alternative provision, working with the third sector, and making sure that we can set to try and achieve a longer term strategy around tackling NEET across the region. So I'm very much looking at this as an opportunity for us to reset what's happening in the region rather than putting money into pots to fix things like putting plasters over things. This is much more of a strategic reset, which I'm really looking forward to working with a range of partners on. Thank you.
It was good to hear your voice, and it was a very clear narrative there. I can see Councillor Smith nodding, so definitely worth hanging around. I can see that Al Kingsley, the Business Board, wants to ask a question, so stay around.
Okay.
Thanks, Chair. Actually, it's more a voice of support. I absolutely endorse Councillor Smith's comment. I do think this is a good. I do think it's a good example where the combined authority, and particularly when we think about skills, can be a bit of a jam in the sandwich between the different individual services and provide more of an overarching joining up of some of these. So whilst I would support that, it'd be nice if there was more support earlier in the process. We are where we are, and I think this is a positive one and well supported. Chancellor Waz.
Thank you. Yeah, I think this is a initiative. We recognise that education is a key driver in social mobility, either way, be that vocational or academic. And I welcome this initiative, but I think we recognise that this is a multifactorial issue. It's mental health in particular. Concerns me, and we need to be inclusive of mental health. And I think somewhere along the prevent, absolutely recognize earlier intervention as early as possible, the better, because prevention, as we know, Chair, is much more effective than having to deal with the problem once it has matured. So in that, I really feel a sense of optimism that all these young people who are falling through the net for one reason or another need to be brought into the mainstream and potentially save so much talent being wasted. And I speak through experience. Kids I have known who were so obviously talented have gone to sheer waste because of lack of care. And of course, the parents have to play. How we bring them into it, I don't know. But I think they're one part of this as a whole, of the education, the health, social services. And I would encourage this sort of multifactorial approach to this, what I feel is a very important part of our national concerns. Thank you, Chair.
I absolutely would echo those points made. I can't see. Sorry, Councillor Sharp. I think you might be the last comment on this one.
So thank you, Chair. I think everybody said it's a very important topic and something we should all support. And obviously, it's one of 8 trailblazers, 8 trials. So, obviously, it's a national issue. It's something that we're trying, engage those youngsters who go off the rails or whatever. Presumably within that, there'll be some reporting back to government, because obviously find out what works and what doesn't work, and what works in one area and may not in another area. So presumably this will come back to a committee or skills committee, presumably, to see what has been achieved and what's worked. So very much supportive, but I'm interested almost in the next stage in terms of making sure we actually get some of these youngsters back on track, so that they can, as said, I think, and Simon said, if you don't grab them early, then basically, that starting life, they've missed that, then that's a slippery slope, so to speak. So it's so interesting what sort of metrics you're using to gauge what works and what doesn't work.
Councillor Wakefield, if you just come on this, you still want to answer, and then we'll go maybe to Alex. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, I won't comment on detailed metrics if I may, but I think as a general point, it's safe to say the Skills Committee are extremely interested in the learning elements we can pick up from this relevant to our work on this particular subject matter and more generally in the education and training space, as Al alludes to. Combined authority plays a rather sort of complicated, potentially really powerful convening role. That'll be even more important if and when we get more devolution of funding settlements as well. And certainly that's a core element of discussion we have between meetings as well. My as deputy chair, with Lucy as Councillor Nessinger as chair, with Andrew and the team about the work ongoing behind all of this. And as may wish to add, but absolutely we're all over that concern. I completely agree.
Okay, in room, over to you.
Okay, so in terms of Councillor Sharp, is that right? Councillor Sharp name badges me wanted to address you. So in terms of impact and evaluation, looking at how we will with concepts is a budget that we have set aside as planning to make sure that we have evaluation. There will also be a national evaluation fund, which will be entirely independent and will look for those consistencies across the Trailblazer areas. I think the Trailblazers are being developed at a regional level to ensure that they are the different needs of different people in the country, and that we don't follow one size fits all. So this is a really, really important for future programmes. So that is a little bit of detail. Is in regular conversations with the Trailblazer and also dealing with indeed policy about how this right, so that we inform participants. A huge impact and scarring it leaves on a young person and their future prospects of having a period of extended time as a neat young person, which hits across, as we talked about, not only kind of employment and prospects, but also has a significant impact on and other kind of life quality indicators. So we're really, really committed to getting this right, and we've got a huge amount of support from Skills Committee colleagues, which is incredibly important. There was a further point, I think.
Dave,
Was
you,
there?
yeah, you, yeah.
Councillor, because and we will be. I know. Wanted to kind of discuss in this space, because making sure that we've got really skills to ensure that we have continuity of funding coming into the area, and really important, and also testing that we've got this right. Is youth is being developed as kind of co-governance around this. So we want of young people who have experienced challenges or some of the shared characteristic with our target group, and we'll be making sure that they're in interventions and activities, but also in the evaluation process as well, so that we've got that strong user voice in how to move this forward into hopefully many future years of further investment.
Talking on this, but I'm going to move to the next item, which is in some ways similar in that it's between yourselves, Andrea and Alex, but this is about the online business case for the Connect to Work programme, which you sort of alluded to, Councillor Nawaz, because obviously the Connect to Work programme is quite heavily linked into improvements around people who are in long-term health situations, whereas the youth guarantee is quite targeted for a certain age bracket. But of course, the factors, health, access to transport, education, all that, those things are across all ages. Do you want to go on to this one?
Yep. Can you still hear me okay?
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so Connect to Work is a national policy development that comes out of the Get Britain Working white paper that was released in November. So where the Youth Guarantee Trailblazer is our chance to shape the policy for next year and beyond, Connect to Work is hit the ground running. Let's get on with this programme. This is it's quite a prescriptive programme. It's targeted at 19 plus all age adults who are economically inactive. with a health condition or a learning difficulty or disability. You'll see in the paper how some of the rates of economic inactivity across the region for us is quite worrying, and one of our most prevailing reasons why people are economically inactive more and more so is due to health conditions. So student will always kind of top it because we're obviously university region, but the health conditions are a key concern. So this is directly a supported employment programme. Again, this is not asking for investment from us as a combined authority, but it's about receiving the grant funding that will come through the Department for Work and Pensions to deliver this programme. The funding model is a bit of a kind of bum on a seat model. So we are currently working on our delivery profile over the next 5 years to look at what our projected starts in programme figures look like and our completion figures look like. And we're still in negotiations with DWP regarding that at the moment. We hope to have that finished and finalised by the end of March, with a view to receiving our official grant allocation from April onwards, and expecting to start delivery at some point in late autumn. The proposed delivery model does suggest that we work with a prime provider who will work with a consortium of providers across the region, because we know that we've actually got a lot of strength in our third sector, and through some of the existing developments around the work and health agenda, such as our Work Well hubs that are already being commissioned through the Integrated Care Board. And we want to scale those interventions up as much as we can, and use this again as another opportunity, not just to deliver a programme, but to actually broaden the depth and success of a greater work and health programme across the region. So one of our key strategic partners in this will be the Integrated Care Board and the Integrated Care Partnership, and we've already agreed with them to have a post that would be seconded into their team and within the skills team to really help shape that going forwards. So this is a real opportunity for the region and for residents to benefit from supported employment provision, which will significantly help economically inactive people find and hopefully secure employment. However, it is a voluntary programme. People are not mandated to this. They have to want to do it, and therefore engaging with those adults is going to be a challenge. It's not underestimated, and therefore again we need to have a systems approach to reaching those hardest to reach individuals and getting them engaged and maximising the opportunities that are there with them. Key to this as well is employer engagement, because without significant employer engagement, this programme quite simply won't be delivered. This will be predicated on employers really offering employment opportunities across the region with the support of the programme. And again, the Chambers of Commerce, as the designated employer representative body linked to skills, is on board to significantly work with us, and we'll also need to work through the business board and other employer links to make this programme work. So essentially this is going to be a challenging programme, but it's a 5-year initiative which gives us a good run-in time to really again reset the system and get the system working right for the people that need the support, and knitting together a system so that really there's just one door that a person has to go through to access the support they need to get them back into work and get them back into the economy. Happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. And I just want to kind of acknowledge this is why I think this system of what we're sitting here now, although it's a lot of work to do today, the investment committee is obviously there's different examples where officers within the organisation working with thematic committees have come up with be they environmental proposals, transport proposals, road safety proposals. But this is government. But it still gets the same hearing from representatives of the constituent authorities to understand what we mean about investment, because an investment in skills is just as important. And just because the government's giving us the money, and for the record, if I don't think you said it, this could work to £20 million over 5 years. So we need to be thinking about this, and we need to be demonstrating that our government structure
are set up to kind of how we and challenge our officers. Now, you've done very well, I think, in explaining it, and to some extent, we've already kind of touched on some of the facts and figures and reasons in the Trailblazer. But does anybody else want to ask any more questions about this? Councillor Wakeford, Sam.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably personally even more excited by this than I was the previous item in terms of, potential ability to push the dial in a challenge that does happen to be sort of, a current policy of current national government to tackle, but really is a fundamental challenge in our economy and social and welfare system, which, we play a bigger say. I think the schools committee week before last were equally enthusiastic about the opportunity here. We won't want to replicate the kind of substantive discussion that skills committee had in terms of our different role, but I certainly don't see any reasons why we should be concerned about encouraging this to move forward at as much pace as we can.
Okay, thank you. I am minded that there is a sort of, I can feel the energy in the room we have a lot of concentration out of here. So thank you for your succinctness in explaining that. I think obviously going back to previous points, there will be monitoring required here, but that's kind of what the thematic committee needs to do as much as us. So thank you, skills team. I'm now going to move finally on to item F, and then we probably will take a little break, a comfort break. And this is to approve the full business case and not insignificant sums of over 4 million for the UK SPF programme. And this is for Steve Clark, or is he there? Oh gosh, sorry. We were very slick, one in, one out. He really were slick. Okay, Steve, over to you. Thank you.
Okay, so on the 13th of December, the government announced the transitional funding for UK SPF. This is funding for 1 year to bridge from the current programme, which ends at the end of March, through to the end of March in 26. The combined authority was awarded 4.39 million, 3 million revenue, 1.39 capital. Settlements across the country included an extra 22% if you were a combined authority. So for us, we got an extra 800k on what would have been our allocation. Bit extra capital, 800k for being a combined authority. The programme follows the three pillars or themes that the current programme is delivering. So that's communities in place, supporting local business and people and skills. Through a process of looking at existing projects with our local authorities and also looking at strategic projects across the whole area. A portfolio of 18 projects / programmes is presented here in this business case. 3 of them are all region-wide projects. That's skills, brokerage, internship and careers service that's currently running. A social enterprise and third sector impact support programme, which was presented as a business case earlier in the committee, signed off by the chief exec, and a region of culture, which includes a local visitor economy partnership being created as a result of that. The 18 projects, we're on a tight 12-month deadline. MHCLG have issued the MOU to the combined authority already, but we have to notify MHCLG through the normal reporting process before the end of the month what our 18 or selected projects are. There are cliff edges in this programme, like there are in the existing programme, so delivery is expected to be pace and across the year. So I think that's it, other than perhaps going through the list of projects. Oh, suffice to say, the question on monitoring and evaluation, there are 30 identified outcomes that are listed as a separate appendix. I'm not sure whether they were published with the paper, but
across that 30, there's quite a myriad of outputs. Obviously, covering such a broad spectrum of activity, you've got everything from learners to creation of partnerships to public realm. A real basket. We're evaluating the current programme from the summer when it's finished, and we will use the same team and processes to monitor and evaluate the continuation year here. So that's the team within Economy and Growth, supported by our PMO. We have to report regularly to MHCLG through their reporting portal too. The transitional year is obviously in play in the spending review. There will be an announcement, one suspects, of a new programme that starts from 26, which we will obviously work towards over the coming year. I think that's probably enough, unless people want me to go through individually.
No, on this occasion, I'm not going to, although it's very tempting, I have to say. Any questions from anybody? Okay, first of all, Kingsley.
Very short one, Chair. Firstly, thank you for the report and the summary. It is really clear. I think the one strand I wanted to pick up on is there are quite a few identified in there that have common thematic aims. We have digital inclusion projects, we have business growth projects, we have digital incubators at different points, and it would be good to understand at a later day how perhaps we could make sure they don't remain siloed, and there's a bit of joined up thinking and sharing maybe on those.
No, that's really good, thank you. And I can just say that our Growth Hub team are linked to all of those projects. In fact, the digital incubator is one I would actually like to champion and grow a bit more, being delivered in partnership with our Growth Hub. So yeah, we'll talk offline now.
Any more comments? Councillor Waters.
Question. How would you identify the target groups? Or geographically, or just sort of, there are certain areas for multiple deprivation within Cambridgeshire. So how will you identify those and target them effectively and specifically? And how will you then please evaluate the improvements due to this particular intervention? Thank you.
So in terms of targeting, obviously the three regional-wide projects led or commissioned by the combined authority, we will obviously have direct control of those. So, for example, our skills team, continuation there, their focus is into certain parts of the region, doing more in places like Fenland and East. Commissioned as a universal targeted service across the region, and we've done it in other programs where we will be quite specific that there are places that rank criteria that rank slightly higher in terms of outcomes and targeting the focus. Some of the projects, the other 15 that are led by our local authority partners, they've already proposed many of those because they have a specific focus need. For example, a focus on Abbey in Cambridge is an already identified area of need, and the measuring of the current project that's working there, which we'll evaluate in the summer, we will equally evaluate this programme come the end. In a year, we probably have to wait till beyond the year to then evaluate what was the impact of that project in those places. I'm sure month by month, it may be a little more slow burn for some of them. In Fenland, you've got the antisocial behaviour and the fire break projects put forward, which is about working with the youth and others with uniform services. So I think that's, again, very specifically targeted. And again, it'd be interesting to see the evaluation afterwards in terms of delivery. We've already seen on the antisocial behaviour projects in Wisbech some really good results starting to come through from the current programme. So yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I'm just wondering, will you be working with
schools and parish councils. And for example, I've been going through some Ofsted reports, and there's some really very, very disappointing, even distressing Ofsted reports in the area. I'm not going to name any particular institution or any schools, but falling far into the negative territory according to the latest Ofsted banding. We'll be working with those schools. I would encourage you to do so, and I would also invite you to work with the local parish councillors, because they're the people who really know their neighbourhoods and what is going on there and what their needs are. Thank you, Chair. In the specifics of skills, I would defer to my skills colleagues. That feels like a holistic conversation about particular schools, parish councils. So I think it's not just this programme. That sounds like a conversation about most of our programmes needs to happen. On the question of parish councils, there are a number of projects in the portfolio. So the Vibrant Communities in Huntingdonshire, for example, which is working with all of their parish councils as a project, and that gets to continue from the current programme. So I think there's some good examples of stuff happening there. But on your specific point about particular schools and skills attainment, I think that's a more holistic.
You want me to?
No, go. Come to you later. I'm very mindful. We've got a few more things to go. We're going to have to go to the votes in a moment, but just on this issue, I want to say, first of all, a thank you to all officers across the constituent members of authorities, because this was there's quite a tight timeline in this, and a challenge, obviously, knowing that we have to be able to show delivery within a year. I also want to say a big thank you to you, Steve, in terms of the work that you've done, particularly around the narrative about the region of culture thing. I will confess to a certain degree of ennui and sadness, because as I see all these things, I know these are things that will be delivered in Cambridgeshire and Peterborough, and it will not be me seeing them and maybe visiting them with their, I'm sure, undoubted success. But I think the fact, and I'll also say a note to my chief executive here, with the biggest expenditure here is around the region of culture, and particularly the LVET, the Visitor Economy Programme. I can reflect on many things over the last 4 years, but one of the things I did talk about, and arguably didn't completely manage to land, was a city of culture bid, or a 3-city culture or a region of culture bid. But the fact that culture is now seen as, again, an important role of helping drive our economy, the fact that we, the Combined Authority, with our partners, because we're not the only ones, others have been doing this for many years, Peterborough City, Cambridge City, East Cambs and Penland District, they've got huge assets, which I know, but by coordinating it and working with Visit England, we're in a much better place to kind of, dare I say it, celebrate everything that we're proud of in terms of the civic pride that we have for our different areas. So I want to say a particular thank you to my officer team for finally, I don't know if you just got fed up with me saying about it, but the region of culture narrative is something that I think is a very good, arguable legacy from a kind of push, but it was only possible by working together with the constituent authorities who finally would begin to get it. And on that particular note, I'm going to call out one individual person, Tom Hennessy at Peterborough City, and he quite clearly had heard how excited I was about the proposal that the fantastic street art that is increasingly a feature the work of Nathan Murdoch in Peterborough. And I think it's something that we really want to push. And I know that the Street Art Culture Neat project and the potential that there will be more walls and possibly even roadways that are going to be showing off what is all clever about Peterborough is I'm really pleased that that landed. I also note, and is there, and we'll wait to see if we still manage to get the Tour of Britain. For the record, I am a big fan of it. I know I maybe don't have the final say on it. Not that I'm a cyclist or anything, but I think there is a real benefit, and I know that's also potentially some of the things that we will be able to deliver because we want to show off our area. If you're going to the Tour of Britain, sorry, I shouldn't say. Why shouldn't you want to come to Cambridgeshire and Peterborough? Because it's an area we should all be amazingly proud of. Thank you. My indulgence is over. We now move to voting. I am going to make this easy because I'm going to propose every single one, and then I'm going to go along the line, and then I'm assuming that you're going to second them. Is that okay? Yeah. Is that? And there is an amendment. Is there?
It's to approve.
Right.
Just met.
We're approving the full business case for F, what we just talked about, and that's because it falls under the 5 million threshold. It's now a decision for this committee to make and does not need to make a recommendation to the board. Okay, so item A, which is approving the full business case, 1.6 million active travel fund, program 5. I'm proposing. I'm going to Councillor Wakeford for a second. Those in favour? Are we happy as unanimous? Okay, B. Full business case, 1. Thank you, Councillor Smith, seconding. Those in favour? Okay, unanimous. C. Outline business case, 893,000 active travel capital programme into the full business case. Councillor Nawaz, want to go for a second? Okay, approve. So seconding. Those in favour? Great. Okay. D. Approving the business case, and I don't know if you're the oldest here, but I'm sure you want the youth guarantee trail. Seconding it. Second it. Okay. Those in favour? Okay. Excellent. Moving over to the recommendations from the board for the approval of outline business case Connect to Work programme, full business case. That is you, Nick, Councillor Sanford. Seconding. Oh, Gordon. Sorry. Isn't it? Second. Those in favour? Okay, unanimous. And finally, and to miss you out, John. But no, actually, I'm going to go to you, John. Yeah, John, for the final one, to approve full business case and the things as outlined of £4,393,356, which we wouldn't have got so much of if we weren't a combined authority. To make Skeena a combined authority, all in all, worthwhile. Are you happy to second this? Okay, are we going to approve? Those in favour? Right, unanimous. Well done. Can we just take maybe a 5-minute comfort break? Because I know, are anybody expecting to need to go away at 4 o'clock as well? Maybe 5 minutes. So, is it 2-minute break? Okay, we are going to have a 2-minute break. to go. Are we good? So welcome back to those listening online. We're item 6 is the investment concept papers, and here we have in the room Steve Clark as our senior responsible officer of Local Growth Fund. We also have Louisa Simpson, strategic fund program leader, but also a guest. We have Gemma Little from the Cambridge City Council, and the reason we have that is because we're talking about an investment concept which involves the Cambridge Civic Quarter, which I have had the pleasure of being invited to and having a good walk around. So I have the benefit of some prior knowledge of this, but over to you. Are you, Gemma, are you going to be bringing the report to us now? Thank you.
Yes, I'll just do a brief intro, and obviously Louise is here as well, and Janice, who also put the report together with the PMO support. So thank you, Chair. I think this, as the paper says, this is a concept paper. The scheme was approved as part of the medium-term financial plan by the board and the committee last year or the year before, I think. And this paper really kind of shows progress in progressing the Civic Quarter scheme and the Market Square scheme within that. The overall aims and objectives of the project are very much about supporting the growth of the visitor economy, ensuring that Cambridge City Centre is fit for purpose in terms of its sort of global reputation, and ensuring that our Market Square in particular is able to accommodate the growth that we're expecting, and also serves visitors, both residents in the region across the CPCA area and international visitors. So our Market Square proposal, which the investment from the CPCA is being sought for, is about improving the Market Square. It's about creating better trading facilities for market traders to help them do better business. It's about creating new public realm, seating, shading, etc. for visitors to enjoy. It's about bringing the Market Square up to standard compared to other local markets such as Norwich or global competitors, let's say, such as Porto Market, etc. And bringing that sort of public square area into use in the evenings as well. So it's a strategic development project, a regeneration project really, that's very much linked to our aspirations for growing our visitor economy locally. And the concept paper outlines the stage we're at. So we've significantly invested in our IBA stage 3 designs, and I think I've got the number, I think I might have the number wrong, stage 2 designs. Before we go out to public consultation again for more detailed designs leading to planning permission for the project, we very much wanted to get the investment committee's green light to go to full business case, and bring a full business case back to this committee to seek investment in September, October time, when we've had the benefit of more detailed design. I will also point out that we're also doing business case work at the moment, looking at the funding stream. So at the moment, the council's committed £1.5 million. We're asking the CPCA to match that. And in order to complete the overall design for the Market Square redevelopment and regeneration, the budget's about £12.5 million. So our public sector investments will help lever in other kinds of investment, and we are looking at loan and other kinds of finance. So when we come back to the committee in September, we will have a lot more detail on that, and you will be able to make the decision based upon the more detailed designs, the outcomes of the public consultation, and the outcome of our business plan work. So I think that's all I need to say, if that's okay.
Thank you. And I'm just going to make a few comments. This is exactly what we're here for. I mean, if we draw the analogy previously, we talked about the Little Port. That was another funding stream, but it was something that was got repurposed and was a slightly less amount of money, but it was something that was there to challenge. Now, I guess I'm biased on this. I've had the benefit of being walked around. I've had the benefit of speaking with the leader of City Council, speaking with the Chief Executive, and what is being proposed here by the City Council. I think it sounds grand. I think it's fantastic, but it's not necessarily to convince me. It's about, you also have to think, is an investment of this money, which is 1.5 million. It's also where it doesn't matter if you're coming from Peterborough City Council, if you're coming from East Cambs or wherever, you can begin to see that we're going to work on this together, because to this time, we're talking about the City Council and improvement at the market and the civic quarter in Cambridge. But next time we'll be doing an investment. So here we are. There may be a challenge, and I encourage people to ask questions if they feel the need. But what I love about this is the transparency. It says we need your help, the Competent Authority. This is what we're willing to put in with discussions between officers. But it's kind of, we're sharing this. We're sharing this as a combined authority. Over to you, Al.
Thank you. For the benefit of time, I'll just keep it short and sweet. I think the overarching message would be crack on. We've been talking about it for a while. You have been transparent about it. I think there's a lot to be said that actually an investment for 1.5 million full stop would be pointless. An investment is part of a bigger pot with that business investment. I think gives it much more potential impact, which is what you're looking to do in terms of scaling that centre. So I think it ticks all the obvious boxes very much, as you alluded to then, Mayor.
Any other comments? Councillor Lewis.
Aspiration question. It is good, I like it, but I wonder if this could be replicated, say, in the towns of Fenland. Is it something that can be envisaged?
I would argue that it's what we have been doing. I mean, actually, maybe.
Market towns, 13 million.
You know, obviously, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but speech, and it actually was repaved. You know, we did repaving. It was it. So that's the sort of thing. So the answer is yes, we want to keep doing it. We've been doing it, and we continue to do it. Unfortunately, the civic quarter of Cambridge never got anything because it wasn't a market town. I mean, you know, yeah. Tree, okay, but no, it is a market town. Yeah, just a quite big one, well known around the world. You know, so okay. So I think the answer is yes. Then yes, we continue. Any other highlighted comments, Councillor?
Yeah, there's portfolio holder for market towns regeneration work in Huntingdonshire. Absolutely, substantially sized grants. I'm responsible for with respect to St Ramsey, and looking forward to bringing forward further plans in due course around Huntingdon and St Ives too. I'm really pleased to support this. I think as has been alluded to, Cambridge is a market town, and yet is much more than that for us, and plays enormous strategic value, obviously, as we all recognise, for our wider region and its prosperity as well. If Cambridge can thrive, I think there have been, strong arguments of a similar and distinct form for some of the investments in Peterborough as well, which we've warmly endorsed as a committee, and I'm sure we can support this as well on the same basis.
Representative for Cambridge City.
Yeah, so as a representative of the council, and I'm the lead executive councillor for this project, and the Market Square area is in a sorry state, and it's the worst possible advert for a city that the UK government is trying to promote as what it is promoting as the capital for life sciences in Europe. The whole sector is globally competitive, and it's a key driver for economic development, not just in the city, but in supply chains across the whole of the UK, including Cambridge and Peterborough. So it is something that needs to be invested in and brought up to basically fit for purpose. It's very neglected. It's in the road services and all the public realm around is in a shocking condition. It's all the highway is contested between vehicles, the 7.5 million visitors that we have, cyclists. It doesn't make for a very pleasant shopping or recreational experience. And so we are about to embark on a substantial investment programme to change this. And we brought the Market Square into this project because of the early decision the CPCA made in 22, and we're very grateful for it. Thank you.
Okay. Well, very simply, we've been asked to note and comment on this report, which we have done. Thank you. Well done, Cambridge City. Okay, thank you, Gemma, for joining us as well. Moving on to item 7, which is the single assurance framework. So you'll recall, for those who have been here a few times, this is one thing that we do every time, and it's just a review of the most complex programs and projects we have. And this is for Chris as our project manager, PMO, to introduce the report.
Thank you, Chair. Hello again, everyone. Just a run through of the most complex projects performance data. So this was laid out in the performance management framework in September 23. We have 7 most complex projects. You'll see there as significant in terms of value, strategic fit, and where there would be some significant impact if there was a failure to deliver. On the last report, back on the 16th of December, you as a committee asked that we had a new column in progress. We've done that. That's in Appendix 1. With regards to the individual projects, the Market Town projects, the RAG rating has changed from green to amber. That was with regards to some change requests, which I think have been subsequently approved. The Adult Skills Fund Free Courses for Jobs project now has a RAG rating of amber from green, due mostly to low performance. Free Courses for Jobs was achieved in the previous year. There's one red RAG rated project, which is Homes Upgrade Grant 2, HUG 2. The programme target has been revised following a change control approval with the Department for Energy Security and Net Zero, DESNZ, and this puts the programme back on track to deliver what is agreed. However, the RAG rating remains red as there's still financial risk. The financial risk remains. So, of the original 5, 2 have completed, 4 rated as amber, 1 rated as red. With regards to the list of complex projects, they'll be reviewed in the financial year going into next year. And later in the year, probably around September, we'll look at refreshing the performance management framework. So we will look at the projects we need to include on the list for next year. Now, we've got representatives in the room for Peterborough, for HUG 2, Market Towns, for Adult Skills, and with regards to University of Peterborough and Business Growth. If you have any particular questions on the projects or the ratings, they're here to hopefully answer. Thank you. Yeah.
Councillor Noaz.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick question. I note this improved public access to the western entrance in the Peterborough Station Quarter. Earlier at the meeting, I think it was active travel, that we were looking at Thorpe Road and the Crescent Bridge. Are these developments, or is that part of this? Because we did look at it separately. So can you clarify that, please?
Good question, and I think it's important to get public record. Over to you, Tim.
Yeah, so in answer to your question, Councillor Rath, yes, they are different from different funding pots. So the funding pot was just been identified as the £48 million that we've got through the Levelling Up Fund, and that is the Western Access. The funding previously was from Active Travel England, and therefore they are these 2 different funding pots.
Yeah, but isn't that duplicating the funding for the same thing?
No, they do not. It does not duplicate. The one is about the actual Western Access Improvement, the other one is around Clement Bridge and Thorwood. They are two different schemes, and are doing two different objectives of those schemes. The one is around access improvement into the station, one is about movement within Peterborough City as an entity in itself.
Thank you. Any more questions? Well, again, just a quick reflection. Again, I think we're kind of getting to the reason of this. You know, we know why Peterborough Station Quarter is amber, because it's a complex project. It would maybe be, maybe being a bit over ambitious to always think of it as green. And I want to take the time to acknowledge the work Gideon has done and all the transport team in moving it along. There's some really positive stuff that I know has gone on in the background to make sure that we are making sure that we deliver on that levelling up fund thing. There is, however, not a completely 10 out of 10. This was pointed when you next meet. Can I please request that where you have bus reform programme, that you change it to bus franchising programme, as we are now in the position that we're talking about bus franchising. I'm sure it will remain an amber for a very long time, and I look forward to watching the distance to the delivery of the bus franchising programme over a course of time, with the hard work of the transport team and all senior officers. But make sure it's best franchising. But we haven't gone through all of this for nothing, so thank you. That's my comment on that. Again, this was to note the report, which we've done, and no vote is required. Your final comment, we move on to item 8, which is the committee's work programme, which I think you have already sort of alluded to, Chris, in terms of which follows in the papers, and obviously that's all under constant review. And I would encourage members of the committee to, if you've got questions, please come to officers. If you've got any, thinking about work that needs to be highlighted there. Do any members have any current comments on the work programme? And then that's final to come to the date of the next meeting. So the next meeting will be the first of the municipal year 2025-26 and is scheduled for 23rd of June 2025. I hope you make a note of that for those who think you're going to be here. I know I won't be here, but I will be taking an active interest in, of course, the investment committee and many things. I want to say my thank yous as the mayor and the chair of this committee for bearing with us. I remember, Matt, as we were putting together, was it 9 months ago we did the first one? I remember you much. I remember a lot of challenges in trying to get the governance and the idea behind what an investment committee is. Thank you again to senior officers for helping shape the narrative, and now the officers across all the different themes where we deliver at the Combined Authority for getting behind the programme so that there is this sense of transparency and, dare I say it, shared cooperation across representatives from all the constituent authorities, making sure that the money that we have from central government is spent in the right way. It's very much been a pleasure doing this particular committee, very much been a pleasure being a mayor, but I've still got a few more meetings to go. But I wanted to say thank you to you all. Thank you to, as I say, putting it all together, making it work. Thank you to Joe for always doing fantastic minutes. And on that note, I will do my proverbial mic drop and say the meeting is now closed.